Ethiopia is the cradle of mankind and the birthplace of civilization, of writing and books, and of coffee. It is where the indigenous coffee berry was first discovered and where coffee has been cultivated and savored for uninterrupted centuries.
Ethiopians have been growing and roasting and really developing their coffees for a millennium. You can almost taste that history in the varietals.
No place on earth is more suited for growing coffee. The high mountains and plateaus, the rich volcanic soils, the temperate climate, and the unspoiled forests create a unique environment where coffee trees thrive and diversify.
Lafichi kuni buna qofeedhaaf kan ta'udha jechuudha. Lafa qonnaatu hin ta'in lafa buna irratti oomishanidha.
And no people on earth are more committed to nurturing the plant that produces the beverage that is cherished around the world. Ethiopia is inviting all people involved in the cultivation, processing, sale, and consumption of its coffee to share in the equitable distribution of its bounty. The Ethiopian Trademark and Licensing Initiative is the process that honors Ethiopia's unwavering commitment to providing the world with the best, most environmentally respectful coffee in the world. Ethiopia consumes over half the coffee it produces. Its diverse population of small farmers nurture their beans, influencing each variety with their own unique styles of cultivation and inventing ways of enjoying their harvest.
They're able to roast and grind it in a traditional way. There is also consumption of coffee hull, or the outer cover of the dry buni coffee, and also on ceremonies, on religious ceremonies, they pass around the cooked coffee to give to people, and then everyone will keep on their hand and pray for God.
Ethiopia gave birth to coffee, and that story has been passed on for centuries as the Chaldee legend. Sometime around the 9th century, a young goat herder named Chaldee took his herd to graze in the mountains of Ethiopia, then known as Abyssinia. While he was sleeping on the job, his goats wandered off to greener pastures. When Chaldee awoke, he searched everywhere until he found them, happily munching on some strange plants. And not only were they munching, they were on their hind legs, dancing. Chaldee tasted the plants himself and also felt like dancing. He grabbed some samples and headed back to the village to share his discovery. Everyone in the village loved it, and soon the trade of coffee spread throughout Ethiopia. Sometime around the 14th century, coffee reached the ancient city of Harar, the center of trade for all of Ethiopia. From there, it wasn't long before it reached Mocha, the port city of Yemen, which was the base for trade to the Ottoman Empire across the Arabian Peninsula. During the 17th and 18th centuries, the Dutch, French, and the British introduced coffee throughout the world. Ethiopia is the oldest independent country in Africa, with its oldest recorded history dating back to 1000 BC, when the Queen of Sheba visited King Solomon there. It is currently home to 81 million people who speak 80 languages and 200 dialects, the third largest population of Africa after Nigeria and Egypt. Christians, Muslims, Jews, and many other religions also find a home there. One common link among all Ethiopians is the practice of the coffee ceremony, a ritual designed to celebrate the central place of coffee in their lives and to eliminate barriers to fellowship. Coffee is the medium that stimulates communication between family members and the sharing of news and gossip between friends and neighbors. The rituals, aromas, and flavors reduce social distances, mute cultural differences, and add warmth and humor to intellectual discourse. The ritual can take an hour or two, beginning with the aromas of fresh grasses, charcoal, and roasting coffee. Sound, too, contributes to the specialness of the experience. The gentle washing and dehusking of green coffee beans, the crackle of coffee roasting in a pan, the rough grinding of roasted beans in a pestle with a long-handled mortar, the loud drip of coffee being poured from a height of a foot or more into tiny cups. There are 3 separate pourings, each significant and named: Abol, Tona, Baraka. It would be rude to leave before the hostess pours the third cup, which is said to be a blessing. Coffee growing in Ethiopia is different than in any other part of the world. Almost all of the coffees are specialty coffees. Most come from small, individual farms. Over half of the population is involved in coffee production. It is fine coffee, grown by coffee connoisseurs.
Everybody knows Arabica coffee originated in Ethiopia, and that is exemplified by the fact that we have thousands of varieties of coffee, each one in its own climate or eco-climate, creating a different taste of coffee. This wide range of tastes and super qualities is what differentiates Ethiopia from other producing countries.
Most of these coffee species are still unknown to the rest of the world.
We are now developing varieties for Limu, and also Gimbi and Nakamte area is also good coffee area.
Along with the three coffees well known by aficionados, Yergachefe, Harar, and Sidamo, there are dozens of others with completely distinctive flavor profiles and unique cultural and historical credentials.
If I would summarize some of these unique flavor experiences, then I would say the blueberry of Harar, and the floral and the extremely aromatic sweet notes of Ethiopian Yergachefe, Sidamo natural sun-dried coffees. They display an array of exotic fruits and dry fruits and spices that you find in the markets. I've tasted one coffee from the Tepi area. The acidity of the coffee is unusually refreshing.
In Ethiopia, coffee is not a colonial commodity grown by people with no investment in the land or in the product. Coffee is, and always has been, a source of national pride. Coffee is Ethiopia's heritage, which brings us to where we are today.
I see the future of Ethiopian coffee to be simply bright. Ethiopia is a supermarket of coffee.
Ethiopia sits on the brink of an achievement of historic proportions, an achievement that will resonate globally among developed and undeveloped nations of the world. Ethiopia stands as an example of a people and a government willing to commit to a long-term economic vision.
Developed countries recognize the value of intellectual property assets and protect these assets and strategically exploit them. Poor countries don't know what we have, bringing no benefit to the asset producers or to the asset owners. So we wanted to really change this. With this in mind, we had initiated a number of programs. The Coffee Initiative is one.
A number of individuals and organizations took up the cause of bringing the benefits of Ethiopia's intellectual property assets to those producing it, such as the Ethiopian Intellectual Property Office, with the unwavering support of government leaders.
Ethiopia needed to trademark their coffees for two reasons. They needed to take control of those brands. Ethiopia was going to lose the value of those brands if they didn't take the trademarking step. This initiative was framed to take control of distribution, so that Ethiopia would have a very different relationship with their distributors than ever had before. In order to take control of distribution, they needed to own the brands in the developed country markets that they were selling into.
With the advice of their supporters, Ethiopians stood firm in their commitment to trademark their coffee products and, free of charge, to license distributors who signed on to their initiative.
The position taken by Ethiopia is that we are not after a short-term gain. We have a long-term perspective. What we'd like to see is a partnership being established between the Ethiopian coffee producers, coffee exporters, and our coffee buyers in the international market.
Once again, Ethiopia is first. The first place where coffee was grown, the first country to register trademarks of their fine coffees, and the first place to license distributors in order to take some control of the sale of their coffees in foreign markets. All of this to ensure that farmers receive more income for their work. This has taken unprecedented action and courage on many fronts. The producers themselves have had to join in cooperatives or producer associations and agree to the highest standards for their crops.
When the producers bring the coffee to here, if he said that I produce Harar grade 4 coffee for the Saudi market or for the American market, we have to assure that the coffee is 100% Harar.
And ultimately, even we coffee drinkers must take responsibility for the consequences of our actions. By becoming conscious consumers and buyers, we possess perhaps the greatest power to affect global change and to improve the lives of millions of people.
The ultimate goal of the trademarking is to increase the price of coffee for the coffee farmers and to make them live a decent life.
So if I see next year a farmer who is sleeping today on a mat, sleeping on a mattress, then it's, I would say the initiative is successful.
When you talk to any real specialist, anyone who really understands coffee, they think about Ethiopia not only in pure quality of the coffee, but in terms of the richness of their reputation, in terms of the tremendous amount of hard work that created this reputation. It's the best reputation of coffee in the world.
To date, 50 Ethiopian companies and over 70 international companies have signed the Ethiopian Fine Coffee Trademarking and Licensing Agreement. Among them, large American companies such as Starbucks and Green Mountain Coffee.
We have been supportive of this licensing agreement from the beginning. We believe that Ethiopian coffees deserve more value in the marketplace.
When we heard about this initiative at Taylors of Harrogate, we realised that we wanted to be part of that. One of the reasons, of course, we buy a lot of coffee from Ethiopia. Secondly, we want to support Ethiopia. For a country that's producing such great coffee, I think raising the profile and really telling our customers about this coffee is what we want to do, and I think by trademarking, with the trademarking initiative and supporting that, makes real sense for us to do that.
These landmark agreements assure mutually beneficial long-term relationships between coffee producers and buyers. By signing the agreement, coffee buyers are demonstrating corporate social responsibility and acknowledging the essential role of coffee farmers in the quality of the final product.
The initiative will enable farmers who work with the distributors increase the income that distributors are getting and then increase the income that comes to Ethiopia. It will pass to the farmers as well as to the country itself.
Right now is a great time for international distributors and roasters to sign on to the license agreement. I think everyone is interested in a win-win. Everyone wants to do the right thing, but also have a financial gain in their own business.
More and more people are signing up to it. Other roasters in the UK are doing that. Some of the big roasters in the US are signing up to this as well now. It's new and fresh, and I think it should be good for the future of the Ethiopian coffee industry.
It is time. Ethiopia has arrived again. This African nation has re-emerged as an independent partner in the global economic market.
This initiative is an initiative which would cater to the interests of everybody in the coffee chain, beginning from the coffee farmer to the coffee consumer. So I would like foreign coffee importers, coffee roasters, distributors, and the great coffee lovers of Ethiopian fine coffee to support the initiative.